PowerPC is a child of necessity. In order to have a computer company, you need computers, and to make those computers, you need processors. Apple and Motorola saw a little bit of trouble during the 68K days because, well, 68K was running out of steam. I mean, 68K was good. It was really good. But it can't have been, it couldn't have been good forever. Motorola was going to be out of a job, and so was Apple. But they teamed up with IBM and used their Power 2 architecture, IBM's Power 2 architecture, to create PowerPC. See, Power 2 was this really high-end, scalable processor architecture for big server computers, not necessarily designed for the end user or the consumer market, the average consumer market, but Apple and Motorola managed to modify it enough that they could use it in home computers. It should be noted that in doing this, Apple actually managed to indirectly kill the 88K project for Motorola. Motorola spent so much time with Apple trying to develop PowerPC that by the time Motorola 88,000 came out, it was too little too late. So what did this world get from the labor of Motorola, Apple, and IBM? In my opinion, an amazing architecture that should have lasted longer than it did. I resent Apple for not pursuing updated versions of Power for the new PowerPC processors down the line. They could have stayed on top of Intel for decades, but they didn't. If I remember correctly, Apple's PowerPC was based off of Power 2 from IBM. Power 2, having been introduced in 1993, is more than 20 years old, and PowerPC was running through the blood of Apple computers until 2005. Power 3 came out in 1998, meaning for 7 years total, Apple was using a very easily labeled outdated CPU architecture. Why couldn't they have just updated it? Why did they go back to Intel? Or to Intel in the first place, rather? Either they were lazy or they were stupid, but neither of those things are good, so I don't see why to justify it either way. Apple computers are overrated anyway. Let's talk about some other PowerPC stuff, huh? IBM and Motorola released a series of laptops under the IBM ThinkPad brand called the ThinkPad Power Series, which ran PowerPC processors, and they usually came with Windows NT or AIX. AIX is easiest described as if IBM made a Linux distro, although I know the big Unix boys are going to get mad at me for saying that. Later on, there was support for OS/2, which was IBM's very own, not based in anything at all operating system, and Solaris. There's also a ton of non-conventional computers that use PowerPC. A lot of game consoles use it. The GameCube, the Wii U, the Xbox 360, and the PS3 all use PowerPC, or variants thereof. And there are also niche specialty computers like the Amiga 1, designed to run Amiga OS 4, aka the cash-in on nostalgia that ruined the dreams of 30-year-old midlife crisis computer collectors all over the world. There are some fairly obscure or undocumented projects as well, or products, not projects, like the Motorola PowerStack series of computers. Certainly an interesting spot of machines that ran Windows NT. In the bottom left is a video by RetroSim for RetroSim episode 24, where he installs Windows NT 4.0 on a Motorola PowerStack 2, if you want to look at that. I asked a few friends if they knew of any more PowerPC-based computers, and no one really had an answer. It looks like the vast majority of use of this architecture came from Apple, which is who it was designed for in the first place, so I don't think I can really complain. There are a few very obscure parts that use PowerPC processors, like in the Killer K1 network card. But other than that, PowerPC was short-lived and not very widely used. Of course, aside from hardware, there's tons of software that kind of support PowerPC. You have Windows NT, which ran on the Power Series laptops. You also have Debian and Gentoo, or GNU Debian and GNU Gentoo, depending on how deep you are. As far as I know, those are the only Linux distributions that support PowerPC. Of course, I could be very wrong on that. Apple OS 7, OS 8, OS 9, and OS X, early versions of OS X all supported it, as well as Amiga OS 4, which I just really mentioned. There's a version of BSD, the one that ran on the PS3, and I'm pretty sure other versions of BSD also support PowerPC. It's certainly an interesting architecture, and Power is still alive and well. It's in its 9th version right now. But what of PowerPC? Well, if you buy any dual or quad PowerPC G5 Power Macs, you can actually use them as fairly powerful and even, some creative workstation computers that would absolutely be useful for the next, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years, as long as you don't push the hell out of it. Keep in mind this computer's like 12 years old and is still able to kick major ass in the perfectly usable desktop segment. For now, its PowerPC is pretty much dead. Who knows, maybe someone might decide to pretty please ask IBM for permission to make another variant, and maybe, just maybe, IBM will let them do it. It's a crazy world. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I know this channel gets almost no uploads, but that's actually because the microphone that I had been using broke, and I haven't had access to one, and I finally got the balls up to decide to just use my regular laptop mic. So I had the itch to make some videos, and I couldn't wait for a new microphone. So this is gonna be that. Hopefully, this is the first and last video I make with my regular microphone, although that just might not be the case. Of course, thank you for watching, and click all the buttons. You know, those buttons that do the liking and the disliking and the sublibbing and the commenting and all that. Have fun with that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Goodbye.